And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. Of course, back for show number 2 here on a Thursday. Tomorrow, TGIF shows coming up too as well. Looking forward to that as Lemon Cash and 20 will join us here on the Backstage Pass, powered by the Sports Guys Podcast.com, and of course out there internet streaming radio at HighTideCountry.net, presented by Bangtail Whiskey and our friends over at Honky Tonk Texas. And I tell you what, I tracked him down, told you guys he was coming here on the show, and excited to have one of the greatest members of one of the greatest bands of all time from 90s country, a band that we all grew up on, Heath Wright from the great group Ricochet, here on the show. Heath, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Brandon. How are you, my friend?
Good to have you here, brother. And
Good to be
I'm
here.
going to start right at it, too. Dive into the deep end of the pool because I love doing this. This great album. Had a chance to check out 16 great songs. The Then and Now album that came out there August 18th. Tell us all about it, too, because it had just a lot of the great hits and, of course, some things that we hadn't heard before. You guys have to be very excited about this project.
Yeah, it's been over a decade since we've released anything new to our fans, and they have been asking us. Our diehard fans have been like, "Hey, we've got all the albums. We're waiting on something new," and so we decided to go into the studio, and we did it kind of in bits and pieces. So we started this thing about 10 years ago, and we'd go in with a producer and we'd cut 3 or 4 sides, and then 2 or 3 years later we'd do the same thing with a different producer. So there's several different producers on the now part of it, the new music. There's 10 brand new songs on here that have never been released to the public, and we're excited about those. And then we got to thinking, it's been a while since the audience have heard anything from Ricochet, so maybe we ought to remind them who we are. So we decided to do a little bit of a greatest hits package, if you will. So we went in and we re-recorded 6 of the old hits, songs like Daddy's Money and What Do I Know and Love Is Stronger Than Pride, and just gave them a kind of a sonic facelift, if you will. We went in and I took great pains, and so did the rest of my guys, relearning these songs exactly the way they were recorded. Brandon, I'm a country music fan, even long before I was a country music artist, and I'm still a fan. So I love to go to concerts, and I love to sing along with the songs that I grew up listening to. But it always used to get under my skin a little bit whenever I could tell that the artist had gotten tired of those songs, and he would change them. He would change them to the point that they were almost unrecognizable. Change the melodies and change the phrasing and stuff. And I promised myself, if I was ever in a position to do a greatest hits package, that if we were going to re-record these songs, we were going to record them exactly the way the fans loved them, the way they got used to hearing them. So I went in and studied the vocal parts again and relearned them exactly that way. Relearned all the guitar solos exactly the way they were recorded. Everything from the harmony vocals to the fiddle to the steel guitar, you name it. We learned them exactly, note for note, the way the original arrangements were. So I want you guys to maybe listen to the old version of Daddy's Money and then compare it to the new version of Daddy's Money. I can promise you the only thing you're going to notice is that the new version sounds cleaner. It's because recording technology has come a long way since the 90s. So it's like listening to Ricochet in HD now,
Which is, I got a chance to do that. I was comparing them a little bit, compare contrast between the 90s version and the one now, cleaner. And like you said, technology is a lot different too. Studios do a number of different things. We'll talk about that too, because I don't realize, and I've had a lot of the legends like yourself here on the show and talk about this, and they're like, the songs never get old. Well, how does it get tired? How does it get just, kind of thrown out the window or just by the wayside? But you take something like a Daddy's Money and to hear the cleaner version of it too now. And I always ask myself, did it ever get old to sing at shows? Because people like buy tickets to come out there. I mean, T.G. Shepard was just on last week and we're talking about like your 21 number one hits. Does it ever get old singing those hits? And he had a show last weekend and it damn near sold out. Well, it's like people buy the tickets to hear those type of songs. And for you guys, there was one that hit the radio in the 90s and you guys never looked back.
That's true. We're so fortunate to have songs like Daddy's Money in our career. 21 number ones. I can't even imagine that. That's amazing. Gosh dang. But we've had a few number ones and a few top 10s. And so I feel very fortunate to say that they get old. Well, there's been times when I hit the stage and I'm like, oh, I got to sing Daddy's Money again, But then when you start singing it and you see these people out there singing it back to you, it's like, well, yeah, that song was part of their life too. As much as it was part of mine, it was part of theirs. And so they love that music. And it just gives me the energy that I get from them. It makes it all worthwhile to me. I still love doing it. I still love climbing on that stage and singing these songs at the top of my lungs. I will say this. If I'd known we was going to be singing these songs 30 years later, I might have recorded them in lower keys. because it's kind of hard to hit those high notes at my age now. But we're still doing it. We're still doing them in the original keys, and we're still, bringing country music to the people.
It's the awesome thing is that the great ones never die. They never do. And it's songs like that. Plus, What Do I Know? I wanted to ask you about the writing of that one, how it came to you guys. And of course, how that one too is just, again, you turn on the radio, it's absolutely Ricochet that sings What Do I Know? That the writing is tremendous and the lyrics are tremendous in that.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that. I didn't have a hand in writing that song. None of us did. That song was written by Kathy Majeski, Stephanie Smith, and Sonny Russ, three brilliant young ladies in Nashville. And I wrote at the same publishing house with Stephanie. Stephanie and I were both EMI writers at the time. And I remember Stephanie used to sit in the front lounge just trying to get co-writes. People would walk through the door and she'd say, "Hey, let me get you down for a co-write." And then we were the first single she ever had. I don't know if we were her first cut, but we were her first single, meaning that, when we recorded that song and we released it to radio, it was the first time that she had ever had a song of hers on the radio. And then, of course, she wrote a big Reba McEntire song called How Was I to Know? I told her she should get a license plate that said, "I know," because, what do I know? How was I to know? And then if people ask her, what do you know? Say, "I know how to write a hit song, my God." And then she had of course, years later, she had a song for Tim McGraw and Faith Hill called "It's Your Love," and that was a solo write for her, if I'm not mistaken. So she became a huge overnight success. The overnight, and she struggled for years and years as a writer. I believe she's from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. But I know her better than I know Sonny Russ and Kathy Majeski, just simply because I wrote at the same publishing company as she did. I even got a chance to write one or two songs with her. But that song, I love that song. I first heard it at EMI when she finished the demo. There was a girl named Melody Crittenden who sang the demo on that song and just sang the hell out of it. I mean, just a beautiful vocal. And I just loved the melody of it. And I loved the longing in the lyric and how this person was regretful that he had let her, the woman of his dreams go. And I loved what it has to say. And I loved the way the melody just flowed. And especially like the verses kind of lay down here in my vocal range, but then the choruses soar up to the top of my vocal range. And I got to really sing out on the choruses. So, gosh, I don't know what else to say about that song, except it was just perfect for us. I wish we had done a video on it. We didn't get a chance to do a video on that song because we had spent most of our promotional budget at the beginning of our career doing a radio tour. Actually, six months of radio tour where we'd go out and we would introduce ourselves to country radio and to the program and music directors out there. And so we spent a lot of time and effort just introducing ourselves to country radio, and we didn't have any money left in the budget to do a video. But we did do a little piece of that song at the beginning of the Daddy's Bunny video, just to remind the audience that, hey, that was us that did that song too.
That's Ricochet, no doubt about it too. We'll take a quick time out and come back and talk about a lot of things off the Then and Now record too, including Seven Bridges Road and What You Leave Behind, another couple of fantastic songs off of there too. And we'll talk about Keep You Loving Me, which is another great Ricochet tune off this record. Again, Then and Now, you can stream out there across all the digital platforms, wherever you guys download or stream music. More with Heath Wright. It is the Backstage Pass at hightidecountry.net. And of course, the Sports Guys podcast.com. Wherever you find your podcast, you'll find us. We're live on the website now, and of course, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter out there. More with Heath Wright of Ricochet coming up here, presented by Bangtail Whiskey. Hang tight.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And back here with Heath Wright on the show, of course, coming up tomorrow, Lemon Cash and a great artist, 20, coming here on the Backstage Pass. Got to meet her a couple of years ago at the CRS Country Radio seminar that we try to attend every year. We're going to try to do it again in 2024. We've done it the past 2 years, and it's always a phenomenal event out there. Back here with Heath Wright of the great group Ricochet here, talking about Then and Now, which is the current record across all the digital platforms. So I love this one. He left a lot to be desired. I got a chance to tune into that one too on the record. Tell us all about that one.
He left a lot to be desired. That's one of our old hits that we re-recorded. If I'm not mistaken, that song was written by Rick Bowles and Doug Johnson. Your viewers may want to check me on that. I hope I got that right. But it's one of those songs where the verses kind of lay down in the lower part of my range or the middle part of my range, and then on the choruses I get to go and really sing out and just stretch out the upper part of my range. Again, it's a song about loss, about a guy's a stupid man who let the woman of his dreams get away. And I ain't gonna lie, we're singing it to the ladies. You know, I mean, come on, the ladies are the ones who buy the records. They're the ones who drag their boyfriends to the concerts. So we're singing to the ladies right there. It's like, yeah, ladies, you're right. That man, he screwed up. Shouldn't have left you. He left a lot to be desired. So.
It's good stuff, no doubt, too. You know, I'm sensing a lot of it, too, now. You look at the award shows and everything out there. Collaboration is coming back a lot in the industry. When you look at never thought they'd pair Luke Combs with Vince Gill and just great sound. And when you look at arrangements like that and things come together so naturally, songs come out so beautifully well done. What's your kind of sense? And you guys have been doing this a long time, so y'all know everything. Collaboration is very important in this industry, right?
Oh, I agree. As a matter of fact, this record deal that we signed with Encore Music Group, it's a 2-album deal with an option for a 3rd album. The next album will probably be a live album that we recorded years ago in Las Vegas, and I'm going to license that to Encore Music Group. But the 3rd album, if they choose to pick up a 3rd option, I want to do nothing but an album of collaborations. You know, just duets and vocal trios, whatever. And it's going to be an all Oklahoma project. I want to do something where there's this recording studio in Tulsa called the Church Studio. Used to be owned by Leon Russell, and then after that, Steve Ripley from the Tractors. The whole Tractors album was recorded there, and they've done a multi-million-dollar renovation to it, and it's just beautiful, state-of-the-art equipment. And I want to use an all Oklahoma cast, nothing but Oklahoma musicians, and I want to bring in Oklahoma artists to do guest spots, like maybe Vince Gill.
Okay.
You know, who knows? Maybe Garth and Reba and the guys in Restless Heart. Those guys are buddies of mine, and 3 of them are from Oklahoma. So I'd like to utilize at least the Okies from that group. Who knows? Maybe Carrie Underwood. I've got a whole laundry list, a wish list of artists that I want to work with, all of them from Oklahoma, and I want it to be this 3rd project. So you guys stay tuned. That's something's coming.
Something's coming. Something good's brewing out there, no doubt.
Yes.
Love is stronger than pride. Every time I turn it on, it makes every bit of the sense out there. The words are so fantastic. I love it. And this is one when you guys got it. I'm sure the writing itself, it spoke to you, and you guys never look back on that one either, right?
True. That one might be the one that was written by Rick Bowles and Doug Johnson. Love is stronger than pride. The other one, I'm not sure who the writers are on that one. I think Rick is one of them. Anyway, gosh. Another great song that I'm a sucker for great melodies, you know, because I'm a singer before I'm a songwriter. And I just love when melodies give me a chance to work all sides of my vocal range, the bottom part as well as the top part. And that was another one of those that, you know, soars out on the chorus and lets me really sing out nice and loud, you know, love is stronger than pride. I just love the fact that, I get to do that on every night now. It's again, if we had known that we were going to be singing these songs 30 years later, we might have recorded them in lower keys.
You know? Which is still, it definitely, it shapes as an artist, and the challenge of doing what you do on a nightly basis is not easy. The vocal range and having to go high to low, low to high. It tests you as an artist, including a song I got a chance to listen to off the Then and Now record, 7 Bridges Road. Love this one.
7 Bridges. Everybody remembers the Eagles version of this song.
Yeah.
Funny story about that particular version. When the Eagles, they were the label that they were on at the time, I want to say Capitol, I'm not sure, but the label that they were on was about to release a greatest hits project. And the Eagles hated each other so much by that time, they refused to go in the studio and record anything new for the album, because all their fans already had all the big hits from all the other albums. So they wanted something new to include for the diehard fans so that they would have at least one new song on that project. but they refused to go in the studio and record. So the label took a live recording of Seven Bridges Road, which was written by Steve Young. They took a live recording and they used that as the added extra bonus track for the Greatest Hits album. Can you imagine that? This is, by the way, Brandon, that's before tuning technology even existed. That's
Crazy.
before, you could take a computer and fix a note here and there, or move it if you were rushing with your phrasing or whatever. Those guys sang it that perfectly, in tune, in time, before a live audience, that just like that, the way you heard it.
Before all the technology was invented in the studio, no doubt. It's crazy. Amazingly what can be done now, stretching notes and all the buttons that can be pushed with the production side of it. All right, Feel Like Falling. I thought this was interesting off the record too at the same time, because again, brought out the sound, brought out the vocal side of things, instrumentation, very well done.
Well, I'm going to surprise you with this one. This song was written by Luke Bryant. Luke Bryant and Shane Teeters, if I'm not mistaken, co-wrote this song. I don't know why Luke never recorded it himself. It's a great song. It's just vocally, it stretches me out. Again, it's one of those really fun vocal. I think it was built for a band. The way we started a cappella, and we do all these cool little movements within the first line. Maybe later you can play it for your listeners. But it's a very cool sonically sounding, and great for the arrangements that we did on the vocals. We actually have two different versions of this song, and we cut it years ago. I want to say Pat McMakin was the producer on our first recording of it, and we released it as a CD extra on a self-produced album. But then this particular recording is produced by Robert Wright, and I love what he did with it. He just kind of took it and put it in your face, and just such a great sonic recording of it. I mean, everything is so clean, and every little part you can hear as it moves in and out. I don't really know how else to describe it except saying it's just a great recording of a great song.
And that really is. Love that one too. And again, just hearing all the great songs, the then, the now, a little bit there too. One of my favorite ones, What You Leave Behind, is another one that definitely got me up on the dance floor, at least trying to get a dance floor here at the house to whatever the wife would consider a dance floor too as well. That one also is testing some of the vocal ranges too, but man, beautifully done on the record.
What You Leave Behind, this is a second recording of this song. This was the title track to our very last album on Columbia Records. And I had the pleasure of writing this song with Neil Thrasher and Michael Delaney. And Neil is getting a lot of attention right now because he co-wrote that Jason Aldean song, Try That in a Small Town. This is a tune that I wrote from a perspective. We had been on tour with John Michael Montgomery, and I remember we were in Los Angeles, and I was getting ready in my hotel room one night, and I heard this story about a police officer who had been killed, and he had left behind a wife and a son. And I was telling this story to Neil and Michael as we were writing that day, and they said, well, we should write about that. And so Neil came up with this really cool guitar riff, and we just started. It didn't come all at once. This was an all-day project. I remember about 8 or 9 o'clock that night, we finally decided that we had it done. And the next morning we had our last song listening sessions before we started going into the studio to record our third album on Columbia. I don't know how, but somehow all the stars lined up, and the guys chose that song to be one of the last songs that we recorded for the project at the time. And it turned out to be the title cut of our third album on the Columbia Records. What You Leave Behind was Brandon, when you get a title cut, you just know you're going to get a single. Usually that's the way it works in Nashville. If you get the title cut of the album, you can count on it being a single. Well, for the first time in 100 years of recorded music out of Nashville, Tennessee, old Heath here did not get a single on What You Leave Behind. So it kind of bugged me a little bit at the time. So we decided to go in and re-record it and put it out on this project. So I'm really hoping, as I said, it was written about a fallen officer. So this is a perfect segue. If it's all right with you, I want to tell your listeners about this new partnership that we have.
Sure. Go ahead.
We have partnered with an organization out of Las Vegas, Nevada called the Wounded Blue. Now, the Wounded Blue's mission is to help police officers or sheriff's department deputies, any LEO out there, any law enforcement officer who has been injured in the line of duty. And they're there to provide them assistance, whatever kind of assistance they need, whether it be legal assistance or financial, even just emotional or psychological support, whatever they need. That's what the Wounded Blue does. That's their mission. I was having dinner in New York City with Randy Sutton last week. We were doing some promo for this album and for the Wounded Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me about an officer that they're helping right now who was injured in the line of duty. He lost a leg in a roadside accident, and his prosthetic limb is over 20 years old, and his insurance won't pay for a new one. I don't know why, but those things don't come cheap. That's like a $20,000 expense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Wounded Blue is helping, has provided him with a new prosthetic limb. And another officer that he was telling me about was one that who's been bound to a wheelchair. And so they're taking his house and they're making it more wheelchair accessible with ramps and lower countertops and things of that. And that's not cheap either.
Sure.
And so, I've said it 100 times, and I'll say it 100 more times if I have to. I think the three most dangerous words, not to mention the three stupidest words in this country, are defund the police. That is a dangerous, dangerous movement that's been happening in the last couple of years. In the last 2 years, over 120,000 officers have been purposely attacked on purpose. This used to be a country where we revered our police officers and our law enforcement officials. This used to be a country where we defended them, not defund, defend.
Sure.
And so, anyway, if you want to counter that movement, go to adoptacop.com. Maybe you can put that in the comments later. Adoptacop.com and donate $20 or more, and they will send you one of our new CDs.
Love it, man. And honestly, man, we need more of that too. I commend what you guys are doing, all the partnerships out there to give back to a great cause. And I know a lot of musicians do that through nonprofit organizations and through charity and through the partnerships such as that too. Commend you guys for what you're doing too, because you're right about that is defend, not defund. I totally agree with everything there too. And this album, it really showcases you guys so much, and the donation there, the CD is fantastic. Another great way to hear some great music out there, some of the then, some of the now, and some of the greatest hits. I got to take my final time out here at hightidecountry.net and, of course, the sportsguyspodcast.com. And definitely when to come back, we'll talk about the Grand Ole Opry. The guys have graced the stage there many, many times there and got to know Jeannie Seeley very well, too. I got to go to my first Opry show this past CRS in March. We were there. I loved it so much, and we'll talk about what's ahead, what's next for the group Ricochet here on the Backstage Pass, presented by Bangtail Whiskey. Hang tight, more with Heath Wright of the group Ricochet. We're coming right back.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the sportsguyspodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the sportsguyspodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass.
And back here on the show, final segment with Heath Wright of the great group Ricochet here again then and now. Some of the great hits, of course, more on this record. You guys need to check out across all the digital platforms. And as Heath was talking about there, adoptacop.com. Make that $20 donation too and get a CD sent over your way here too. So in the fun time, I got to ask you about this. I love doing sports and playing golf and getting outside, especially with these, well, hopefully cooler temperatures we're going to see here in Texas by the end of next week. Enjoying that. As far as fun and hobbies, what do you like to do when you're not doing music?
Well, I grew up on a cattle ranch, which is where I live now. I'm here at the Rock and W Ranch, my ranch here in eastern Oklahoma. And so fun time for me, believe it or not, is actually just getting out on the tractor and, brush hogging or checking fences or checking my cows. I mean, I find a lot of solace in that and a lot of just serenity. I know it doesn't really make a lot of sense to a lot of people who, enjoy recreational activities, but you put a chainsaw in my hand and then I'm happy. Give me a fence to fix, whatever. Well, maybe not fencing, but cutting things down. I'm happy to doing that.
Just demolish him, destroy him, no doubt. Put a chainsaw in his hand too. I got to ask you about this because we talked a lot about Daddy's Money, how much it meant to you guys in the career. I always love to give credit to the songwriters. The songwriters make the tune what it is today, make it last for a long time. Give me those songwriters on Daddy's Money.
Well, the songwriters on that song is Bob DePiro, Mark D. Sanders, and Steve Seskin. And I heard the story on this, and I even confirmed it with Jeff Carson. It turns out that Bob, Mark, and Steve were sitting in a room one day trying to come up with something to write, and they were just not getting anywhere. Not couldn't think of anything good to write about, or couldn't come up with a good hook. And this publishing company also had a recording studio attached to it. And back then, Jeff Carson, who was going by his original name, Jeff Herndon, at the time, he pulls up to do a demo session. He did a lot of demos singing back in the day before he got his record deal. And he pulled up in this brand new Jaguar car. I mean, just beautiful car. And apparently he'd borrowed it from his wife that day. And so the guys are looking at this demo singer getting out of this Jaguar, and they say, now, how in the hell can Jeff afford a Jaguar? I mean, he's just a demo singer. He's not making that kind of money. So one of the guys, I think it was Mark D, said, well, have you seen that woman he's married to? Not only is she gorgeous, apparently she's got her daddy's money too. So voila! I used to tell Jeff before he passed away, God rest his soul. I said, Jeff, I just want to thank you for showing up at the right moment that day, and thank you, Kim, for loaning him your car that day too.
Turned into one of the greatest country songs of all time. That's why we do what we do here on the Backstage Pass. Get the stories behind those great hits. All right, talk about the Opry, Heath. You guys are just very synonymous for being there. I mentioned, Jeannie Seeley so many times, and of course, being members there of the great class. And it's just a great stage. I got to attend it for the first time. Sense of nostalgia when I walked in there, and the sense when I walked out, I just kept buzzing in my head from the lineup I saw that night. All these new members, Katie Offerman, and some of these new artists that are coming in to doing what they're doing, Lainey Wilson, all these great artists. But you guys have done it so many times. Does it ever get old, or is it just kind of like fresh every time?
Well, let me tell you something, Brandon. We did it a lot back in the 90s. We were there at least 5 or 6 times a year on the Opry, and I loved it. I mean, I remember sitting in a meeting one time, and I told our managers, I said, look, I know that we're on the road a lot, and I know that the married guys really cherish their home time, but anytime the Opry wants us to come do anything, I'm in, because I'm all about the Opry. So we played it a lot back in the 90s, but then we took a 22-year break. I mean, I moved back home to my ranch in Oklahoma, and we hadn't played it since I want to say October of 2000. And in October of 2022, they invited us back. So the first time in 22 years, my son, who was 20 at the time, had never seen me play it, and so he got to be there backstage watching me on the Opry. And I'm not going to lie, I was nervous. And I still get nervous when I step onto that sacred circle in the middle of the stage, that circle of wood that came from the original Ryman Auditorium. Yep. I still get a little nervous. I mean, it's the pinnacle stage. It's the mother church of country music. So you can't help but be a little nervous, but it's always such an honor. We played it again just a couple of weeks ago. We were in Nashville doing some press for the new album, and the Opry invited us to come be part of the show that day. And like I said, it never gets old. It's just one of those things that I hope the day before they put me in the ground, I have done a show at the Opry that night.
It's definitely, again, it's that nostalgia, that feeling you get to. And so never does it get old too, because I hear from so many great artists that step on that stage and grace it, that piece of wood came from the Ryman. And of course, the legacy moves on. And I'll tell you this, she rang a bell, and I'm sure you know Jeannie very well too. She's performed so long on that stage and has done so many shows, Heath, that her voice just resonated throughout the entire, shook the walls.
She's amazing. Yeah, I love Miss Jeannie. She's awesome. If I'm not mistaken, isn't she an Okie? She's from Oklahoma, I think. She
is actually an Okie. Yeah,
yeah. So who knows? I might have to get her on my project.
She'll talk, no doubt about it too. Loves to talk, and just what a great person, great singer, and great overall human being too. All right, favorite food to cook, favorite food to take out. What do you like to eat?
I like breakfast. I'm a big breakfast fan. I'll even do what we call Brenner. Breakfast for dinner. I love any breakfast food, man, and I'm trying to drop a little weight, and it's not. One of my favorite things is biscuits and gravy, and pancakes with a bunch of syrup and butter on it, and it's just, gosh,
it's hard.
I'm hungry right now. Come to think of it, I think I'm gonna make me some breakfast, some Brenner,
no doubt. Yeah. All right, when it comes to NFL, I know for a lot of people it's the opening night of the season, Lions, Chiefs, and of course Week 1 around the corner. Do you get excited for NFL season? Do you root for the Titans? Who's your team?
I do not. And I'm just going to be honest with you. My mama raised me to be honest. I don't watch football at all, brother. Okay. Sometimes I'll watch a little college football, but I stopped watching football, all professional sports for that matter, when people started taking a knee during the national anthem.
True.
That gets under my skin, and it's their right to do that. I mean, we do live in a free speech society, and if that's how they want to make their their troubles and or whatever. That's how they want to make them known. That's fine. I feel it's disrespectful. The only sport that I follow, and I follow it religiously, is rodeo. So
Okay.
I'm a big rodeo fan. I go to the National Finals Rodeo every year, whether I'm performing or not. I'll go out there as a fan. So I'm a it's funny. I'm the Super Bowl might be on, and I might be watching an NFR from 1985 on a DVD. Sorry.
Hey, well said. You're good. Hey, college-wise, Sooners, Oklahoma State Cowboys. Who do you get
Oh
into?
man, I can't even say. I do like the Bedlam game. I do love to watch
Yes.
the Sooners and the Cowboys that weekend because it's such a rivalry. And my drummer is an OSU grad. He got his master's at OSU.
Okay.
And I went for a little while to OU, even though, to be honest, I don't have a loyalty to anyone. But it's fun to kind of rib my drummer a little bit. So during the Bedlam weekend, I do watch that game a lot.
I love it. Yeah, I'm actually going to go check them out November 18th this year when it's the first year for the Houston Cougars, and I went to a Cougar game this past weekend for U of H, and now they're in the Big 12 with all the conference shifting going around, and the Cowboys come play, Oklahoma State Cowboys come play the U of H Cougars November 18th at TDECU Stadium, so I'm looking forward to that one this year, and just seeing the Cowboys in general because they're going to, again, Houston might be a doormat for the first couple of years in the Big 12, but it's always cool to see college football and the kids just playing their hearts out. I love it so much, too, and that's the difference between that one and the professional level. Well, I tell you, Heath, I love this album. It is fantastic. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and the then, the now. That's why it's called Then and Now, the hits and more, of course, from the great group Ricochet. Brother, enjoyed our chat. Come back anytime to promote new music, which I know is coming out. You mentioned that around the corner, so best of luck on all the new projects. God bless you, the ranch, everything out there, Ricochet. And, man, let's do this again, no doubt.
I appreciate it, Brandon. Don't forget to remind your viewers that adoptacop.com is the best way to get the actual physical CD. You can download it from any of the DSPs, Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, whatever. But if you want the actual physical CD, please go to Adopt a Cop and make a $20 or more donation. They'll send you one.
Please do that out there for us because we definitely want to defend it and not defund the police out there too. Defend our law enforcement. That guys put their lives on the line every day for us so we can live free in this country and do that. AdoptACop.com. Get that physical CD in your hand for the Then and Now. Great CD out there and the record from the great band Ricochet. That's Heath Wright. And, of course, tomorrow, Lemon Cash, the Artist 20, coming on the show. And, of course, still tracking him down. He'll be here. Josh Turner here on the Backstage Pass. He has a Greatest Hits album coming out tonight at midnight, so be sure and check that out with some of those greatest hits. The low baritone voice, Josh Turner, coming back here on the Backstage Pass here very soon here from all of us here at HighTideCountry.net and the Sports Guys Podcast.com. We'll see you soon. Have a great night. Take care.